It was a chilly Saturday morning in the small town of Millstone, nestled in the rolling hills of Northern California. The sun peeked through the fog, casting a golden hue over the streets. On the corner of Pine Street and Oak Avenue, a little girl named Lily sat at a makeshift table covered with colorful posters that read, "Cookies for Chemo." Lily was only 11 years old, but she had already experienced more hardship than most adults. Diagnosed with leukemia a year ago, she had undergone several rounds of treatment, but her family's medical bills were mounting. Her parents worked tirelessly, but the costs of her treatment were overwhelming. It had been her idea to sell homemade cookies to raise the money needed for her upcoming round of chemotherapy. "Every cookie counts," she said with a determined smile that shone brighter than the early morning sun. Her mom, a nurse, had taught her how to bake, and her dad, a local mechanic, helped her set up the stand. Together they made cookies in their kitchen, chocolate chip, peanut butter, and oatmeal raisin. The scent of freshly baked goods wafted through the air, drawing the attention of passers-by. At first it was slow. People would glance at her with sympathetic smiles but continue on their way. Some didn't know what to say, unsure how to approach a child who was so bravely trying to navigate the toughest battle of her life. But then something remarkable happened. By noon, word had spread. The townspeople, touched by Lily's courage, began to show up. They bought cookies not just for the deliciousness of them, but to support her cause. They stopped by to chat, to offer encouragement, and to make small donations. Some left extra tips, while others shared their stories of struggle, survival, and hope. It felt like the whole town was rallying behind her. Lily's parents watched with pride, but also with a quiet sense of worry. As the hours passed, Lily's energy seemed to flag a little. Selling cookies, though it brought her joy, was taking a toll on her frail body. But her spirit remained unshaken. "Thank you for buying, Mr. Anderson." Lily beamed at an older man who bought a dozen cookies, only to return and purchase another 2 dozen a half-hour later. "You're helping me get to my next chemo treatment." "You're welcome, sweetheart. You're doing something incredible," Mr. Anderson replied, patting her on the head before continuing down the sidewalk. Just as the sun began to sink low in the sky, casting long shadows across the street, a white truck pulled up to the curb. It wasn't unusual for cars to slow down in front of her table, but this one was different. The truck's engine cut off, and the door swung open. A figure stepped out, tall, rugged, wearing a cowboy hat and a weathered jacket. For a moment, the bustling crowd paused in collective silence. Lily's eyes widened as the man approached. She had seen him in movies, on TV, and read about his legendary career in Hollywood, but she never expected to see him in person. It was Clint Eastwood. The Hollywood icon stood before her, looking down at the small table filled with cookies. The crowd, who had not yet recognized him, stared in stunned silence. Clint Eastwood smiled, revealing a hint of the same steely confidence and warmth that had made him famous. "Those cookies smell amazing," he said, his gravelly voice carrying easily over the hushed crowd. Lily blinked in disbelief, her heart racing. She could barely find her words, but she managed to stammer, You want some?" Clint's grin widened. "I'll take 2 dozen," he said, leaning in and gesturing toward the tray of chocolate chip cookies. Without missing a beat, Lily scooped up the cookies into a small box and handed it to him. "Thank you," she said. "You're helping me get my chemo treatment." Clint's eyes softened, and he nodded. "You're a strong one, kid. I admire that." He paused, glancing around at the people who had gathered. "I've been in Hollywood for decades, but there's something about this town that reminds me of the real thing. The heart. You all are showing it today." The crowd broke into applause. Clint turned to the crowd and smiled. "Don't let the kid do all the work. Let's make sure she gets all the help she needs. Cookies for chemo. We all can chip in." With that, Clint Eastwood reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a thick roll of cash. He handed it to Lily's mom, who stood off to the side, not sure how to react. Lily's mom took the money, overwhelmed. Thank you, Mr. Eastwood. We didn't expect this." Clint waved it off. "Call me Clint, and you're doing the real work, helping your daughter fight. I'm just doing what I can." For the next hour, Clint stayed and chatted with the townspeople, posing for pictures with the kids, signing a few autographs, and of course buying more cookies. The townsfolk, who had been quiet and reserved before, now found themselves sharing stories with the Hollywood legend. His down-to-earth nature made him seem like just another friendly face in the crowd. As the evening wore on, Lily's cookie stand had raised more money than she could have imagined. Clint Eastwood's presence had made all the difference. By the time he got back into his truck, the entire town had rallied together, making sure that Lily would have everything she needed to continue her battle against cancer. Lily's heart swelled with gratitude, and though the day had been long and exhausting, she knew something powerful had happened. More than the money or the cookies, what mattered most was the way her community had come together to support her. And in the end, it wasn't just the cookie sales that made the day unforgettable. It was the kindness, the generosity, and the unexpected moment when Clint Eastwood, legendary actor, director, and philanthropist, took the time to show that the smallest acts of compassion could make all the difference. As Clint Eastwood drove away, he rolled down the window, waving at the crowd. "Keep fighting, kid. You've got this." Lily waved back, her heart soaring. "Thank you, Clint," she called after him. And with that, her fight didn't seem quite so lonely anymore.